We give tips all the time, and I love that people love our tips, but sometimes it's better to hear from other people about their tips for
Uh,
living the nomad life.
Yeah, yeah. We've been traveling for 5 years, and you know that we've got a lot of videos and a lot of ideas
La, la, la,
on,
la, la, la.
how we left Denver, Colorado in 2021 with nothing but our two carry-on bags, and we sold everything that we owned to travel the world.
Yep.
But one of the best things about our full-time travels are the other people that we have met, amazing people with amazing stories, and really learn a lot from them. And it's really surprising how much we learned and how much we can share with you, because we've got this wealth of knowledge, this encyclopedia of knowledge, if you will.
Yeah, and it's so nice to hear from other people about how they figured out how to do nomad life. We originally talked about this in our book, Wanderlust Wisdom. Here's the old cover of it. It's now out in a new edition with a new cover. But in the second edition, it really gets into some alternative tips that we've gathered from all these 31 other people, at least 31 other people, who are talking about their nomad life in Wanderlust Wisdom.
Yeah, so in this particular video, we're going to share some of those tips with you. We're also going to have a surprise guest who's going to join us, somebody who is in the book, we have met along the way, who's got amazing stories about why it's important to share your travel experiences with
Yeah.
others and help others. So what's the idea for this book? I mean, how did this book become an idea for you?
So originally, I set up a Facebook group called Nomad Life, live, launch, love, share, eat, walk, learn. And the purpose of that group, it was one of the very first groups on Facebook of nomads. I was before some of the big names now. I was still there before them. And the goal was to have nomads connect and find a way to meet each other. It was a social connector, and through that group, we started meeting people. And then we became friends with these people. They went from virtual life to real friends, to people that we talk to on a regular basis, and we plan vacations together with now. Well, not vacations. We plan to meet up with them in our nomad life. You're going to be there a month. We'll go there for a month too. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and then I started realizing, everybody's got such a great story to tell, and every nomad story is different than every other nomad story. If we put them all in a book, maybe other people who are thinking about this life might be inspired, or might find somebody in the book that's living a life similar to what they think their nomad life might look like, and they can identify and maybe even reach out to some of those people. I mean, a lot of these people put their contact information in the book because they want to hear from people that have questions.
Yeah, and what that surprised me is that, it's one thing to be on a Facebook group and be able to say, yeah, I'm going to be in Cabo, in 2 weeks. Let's get together for coffee or something. But these are people that wanted to share their story, their reality of their travel experiences and their ideas with Chris, so that she could put it in a book and live, forever. and and we have somebody who's going to join us, Kate, who is also in the book, who is one of our most amazing friends that
Yes.
we have. An amazing traveler, and has great ideas, and has also written about her travel experiences and shared her story with us. So
Let's cut to Kate, and we'll introduce you to Kate. But I don't know if Dave's going to be with her or not, so we'll see if Dave shows up, her other half. But anyway, Kate Evans is joining us from Cabo, just north of Cabo San Lucas in Mexico.
What I love about your story is in the first edition, you guys were full-time nomadic. You had your little casita there in just north of Cabo, but you really thought of yourselves as full-time travelers. And then in the second edition, on the update, you had some changes, and really you were really questioning. I know Kate particularly was really questioning what home is and what it means to be home, and home versus house versus these different terms that nomads throw out about location. And in the second edition, you really talk about some changes that happened between the first edition and second edition. So I know, Kate, you want to give us a little preview about the home and what home is to you as a nomad?
The definition has been developing as we move through our 50s and 60s. Dave said 10 years, but it was really 12 or 13 years where we first left California and then started living just full time on the road. But we only did that for a year, and then we bought our little place in Mexico. But yes, I definitely initially thought of this place as our home base, not really our home. And I think why it eventually kind of developed into the idea of home, had a lot to do with community. So we would come back, people would say, "Welcome home," and I'd say, "Oh, wow, oh, that's right, we are home," and in the sense that we're connected to a lot of the same people, a lot of the same activities, things that we do with people here, and so we live in a development that has a lot of people that come and go also. And many of them think of this as like their second home. We don't have another home. So I guess this is our second home, and our first home is the world. And yeah. Chris, you have a little look on your face like you have a
No, that
question.
I love that idea, and I think by the time people come into this third book in our series, they read Two Carry-Ons and a Plan, and then they read Nomad Life, which is Steve and I kind of really hashing out what nomad life means to us and what full-time travel means to us. But by the time people get to Wanderlust Wisdom and start reading about the 31 other people who are doing this lifestyle, and they see it's completely different than how Steve and I do it. I mean, there's similarities, of course. We're all moving and mobile,
Right.
but the fact that everybody is so different in how they do things, I think that's what's so beautiful about your story and all the other stories that are in the book.
Yeah.
Since we've been doing this nomadic life for 10 years or so, it seems that a lot of people don't understand what's possible to do. So really the message that we want to get out is take some risk, try something different. A lot of people just go through life with blinders on, doing the same thing, same job, same friends. And this gives you an opportunity to get out, find new cultures, meet new people, have experiences, and it doesn't have to be super expensive.
But I wanted to kind of go one level deeper. You mentioned your writing, and what's the name of your new book?
It's called Wanderland.
Okay.
So it kind of echoes your book as far as the title, because you have Wanderlust, mine's Wanderland, and the subtitle is Living a Traveling Life or Living the Traveling Life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What I wanted to know is why did you write that book, and why do you feel it's important to tell your story?
Mhm. Because I'm a writer, I guess is a big part of it. Books have made a huge impact on my life. And I think actually reading from the time I was a little girl um, made me feel like there were so many possibilities to do this living thing. And that you didn't necessarily have to do the lockstep, expected way of living, which is, the house, putting all of your financial putting all your finances into a house, doing the job, eventually retiring, and maybe if you're lucky, having a few years to travel. So I think about all the books I read in my life that gave me a sense as a young person that, wow, there's so many possibilities. And so that has then led to me being a writer. I mean, I've published 8 books, but this one specifically, I was interested in exploring that idea of that there are so many ways to do this thing that it is that we're doing. Were you going to say something? You looked like, okay. And that home can be an ongoing discovery of what that means to you. And I feel like from the beginning of the book, when I first talk about how we discovered house sitting and then found other places to live in, maybe it involved house sitting, maybe it didn't. Um, that I just discovered that there were so many ways to do this that I didn't know in advance. So the book is really in great part, as our life has been, a discovery of how many different possibilities there are. That it's not necessarily about staying in a hotel, staying in an Airbnb, or even just straight up house sitting. I mean, in the book, I write about the fact that we lived in China for a year. And when we first decided to live a traveling life, we had no idea that that was going to happen, and how that unfolded and how that came to be is part of the story.
Yeah, I love it. So, Dave, do you want to tell us where you guys are headed off to next?
Well, we have a house sit pretty close by over in the Gavilon, the high-end district, there where we can just out the window see the whales going by and taking care of two beautiful cats. And she's going to come with us. So that's like a staycation, if you will, because we can
Yeah,
literally walk back to our house in 5 minutes.
But
yeah,
the reason why we decided to do it is that we need to get our casita painted. So
Yeah.
we'll be out of the way of the painters, and they'll do the painting while we're enjoying somebody else's house and big fluffy cats.
yeah.
And
Another way
on
to be a
that
nomad,
note,
and staycation nomad. Yeah, that's
sure.
great.
And
Yeah,
on that note, when we first bought this place, it was literally just walls and floors, right? So we had to build very slowly because supply chains and stores and even community were very limited back then.
yeah,
So it took us a while to evolve to the place where we knew what we wanted to do here because we're starting to spend more time here. It's not just a, hey,
Mm.
let's zip in for a month and then get out. This is
yeah.
how do we really make it our home? So we're painting and making improvements and doing some things that make it feel more like home. Therefore, it is more like home.
Hmm.
And then when
Yeah,
you
I
come
do
home, you
think
feel
that
like you're home.
in addition to this idea of community, I do think that it's funny how it does come back to like creating an environment that that we feel comfortable in, and that highlights what it is that we love. Like we got a little hot tub. I have my bookshelf with my rotating books. I mean, we didn't have,
We're having a mural painted now.
Wow.
yeah, on our, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, in our patio, on one of our patio walls. And so, but you're right, it's been poco a poco, right? It hasn't been just like, okay, we're going to plop down and we're going to make a home. It's kind of, I guess this is sort of a theme of what it is.
We had a rough beachy vibe to start with,
Yeah.
and now it's a little more refined and comfortable.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's funny or it's fun to see you guys kind of grow into your new nest where you weren't there, or you were barely there, or you were randomly there, and now you're more there than you're not there, and it's becoming your nesty, homey place. But you still think of yourselves as nomads. So I think that's really an interesting vibe of how you're putting it all together. And for people that are watching this YouTube, I mean, they'll go like, nomads, they have a house, but a nomad's kind of a state of mind too. I mean, it's more than just a mobility, it's a
Hmm.
state of mind. And you guys kind of have that as well. Dave and Kate go and take care of their afternoon activities and go out and watch those whales in the beautiful Pacific Ocean. We're off to a goodbye party. Speaking of community, we're off to a goodbye party. So here in Greece. So anyway, we're going to stop recording and say goodbye.
Let me just say one last thing.
Wait, wait.
There's a lot of hellos and goodbyes in this lifestyle. That's all I want to say.
Isn't that the truth? Yes. So
So,
Yeah.
hasta luego. Yeah.
hasta luego,
Yeah.
mis amigos.
So nice to have her join us and really share her story. She's a beautiful author. She's written several books about travel and wanderlusting. We'll put links to her books in the description. Go grab them. You will enjoy them immensely. Now, what we promised at the top of the video was some tips about what some of these travelers have told us.
Exactly, exactly. And that's one of the great things that are also as part of this book is that you can read their stories and you can read their tips and you can read the things that have changed the way that we travel.
Yeah. I think, and the first one, I think, was just start with accommodations. I think when we all launch, well, I know we did, and a lot of people we talk to think Airbnb is going to be the answer. We're just going to Airbnb ourselves around the world.
Right.
And I think we all, at about a year in, get a little tired of Airbnb for various reasons.
Yeah, and sometimes it doesn't take a year. It takes the first experience where you reach out to where Airbnb customer service and you find out that they don't give a crap.
Oh, now don't say that. Let's not talk poorly about Airbnb because we still use them and we still recommend them. But the point is that there are some alternatives, and our readers or our people in the book, our travelers talk about those ways to get different accommodations through property managers, through creatively searching for Airbnb properties elsewhere on the internet. So if you are someone who wants to save money on your accommodations and not have to use Airbnb all the time. There's some tips in the book about how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another thing is the budgeting and the banking and the spending money part of this. I mean, we openly talk about our budget being, we started at 48,000, we're now up to 58,000 or so after 5 years of traveling. But everybody's budget is different.
Yeah, and what's really surprising is that the number of people that will actually use the term budget, because a lot of people they're like, I don't have a budget. But then when you talk to them a little bit more, they know exactly what they're spending and they know exactly why they're spending it. It's just not written down.
Right.
It's just a way that they travel and the way that they spend their money. And it's just really actually surprising the variety, because essentially the people that we've met and the people we talk to are doing what they want. They're following their passion.
Right.
They're following their dream. And their dream is leading them, towards, I guess, in a way, how much money they spend. So whether you
Right.
call it a budget or not.
Right, and there's budget travelers who are traveling on not a lot of money, and there's travelers on a budget who may have big money, but they're trying to spend towards that budget that they have big money for.
Right.
Yeah.
But the common theme is that people aren't like giving up. They're not giving up their lifestyle, so they can live in a tent because they can't afford to live in a car or whatever,
And a house.
in a house. People are doing their
dream.
following their dream.
Yeah.
They're following their, and that may be living in a tent,
Right,
and that's okay.
And we actually have a couple in the book that they spend they split their life into quarters, their annual year into quarters, and one quarter is tenting and camping and hiking and not being associated with walls, particularly. So it's a different way to live their life. So another thing, all these nomads, they're talking about healthcare and prescriptions. One couple, they actually have to carry refrigerated medicine with them, and they have figured out how to get refrigerated medicine through TSA and security without any drama or trauma. So it has to do with a little red bag. So if you want that tip, you'll need to read about checking Heidi in the book.
That is a great tip, because I am, taking a couple of minor medications, things that are really widely available around the world. And that's a fear that a lot of people have is, well, how am I going to get my prescriptions? In my case, I found them everywhere, and then you just basically walk into a pharmacy and say, this is what I'm looking for, and they say, okay, here.
And it's not necessarily that easy for everyone, but there are people in the book that talk about how they've gotten their prescriptions, how they've maintained their medications, how they've maintained their continuity of care, and they continue to travel the world full time with just some adjustments to how they used to do it before.
Exactly. So the idea is, don't let that stop you.
Right.
You can solve these problems, and people are solving it every day.
Right. And then I love the story of Danica, who she and her husband, they are big time volunteers, and they used to volunteer all over Florida. Now they're volunteering in Africa. They found all these different organizations and ways to volunteer, mostly about women's issues and women's rights, all over Africa. And they're going from one country to the next, to the next, to the next, building social work networks and friendships all around Africa, volunteering for women's issues. And they list all the organizations they talk about. So that's
great.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's great. I think about that all the time. How can we give back? And this amazing world that we live in, that we're traveling through, how can we support these communities, and how can we support the people that live in these places that we just fall in love with? And so it's great to hear stories about people that are volunteering.
And then I love the story of Chris. She's a solo traveler. She retired on the road, and she is the queen of making friends, reaching out to network communities or expat communities or nomad communities, finding the locals, and really, really living like a local. You will find her on the beach with a snorkel, having a sandwich, meeting the local kids, petting the cats, carrying dog food around with her so she can give treats to the pets around the world. And she just becomes part of the community, the network of the community. I mean, and it stays for months at a time. So you can read about Chris, and then you can also, there's Latricia and Brian who have big family connections and big family traditions at Christmas time. One of their biggest fears was how they would maintain those Christmas traditions, and they've solved it. They go back to their hometown, they rent a giant Airbnb, and all the family comes into the Airbnb, and they have this luxurious vacation with the family for 2 weeks in the VRBO or whatever they rent, and recreate family.
Yeah. Their story is amazing. They have some incredible adventures. and just living life to the fullest.
Yeah.
And I love that couple.
Yeah, so the second edition of this is the first edition. I don't even have the copy of the second edition yet. It is on pre-order. You can catch it right now. We have had some readers read it prior to its release, and they've had some amazing 5-star quotes. You know, we're going to roll them here. A wonderful book of practical, encouraging advice, you know, which is just so basic. But, you know, if you know about getting reviews, it is hard to get people to say wonderful things. So we've got several comments, lots of 5-star reviews coming in. We hope you'll grab your copy too. You can get it on Amazon. This is the last time we're going to plug a book for a while. It is the last one of the series. We started off with 50 Hikes, 50 States, 2 Carry-Ons and a Plan, The Nomad Life, Wanderlust Wisdom. All of them carry the story of if you are thinking about a full-time travel life and living a nomad life, you can start with some logistics in the States. You can learn how to launch and get rid of all your stuff. You can see how we actually lived our life on the road. And then you can learn from the other travelers who have done similar lifestyles. So grab all 4. You can grab them all. They're all in ebook. They're all in print. They're all in audio. If the audio is not up yet, it will be up in a couple of days. It just takes a couple more days for that to load up after the ebook goes live. So thank you very, very much for all of your support. We absolutely love you. If we are going to be in your town or you're going to be in our town, let's get together and grab a cuppa, and maybe you will be in the 3rd edition of Wanderlust Wisdom. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.